In order, everyone please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ashley, can I have roll call, please?
Briggs.
Here.
Cavalier.
Here.
Brecken.
Here.
Flott.
Here.
Alt. Here. Pidma. Here. Shostel. Fisher.
Here.
Okay, it's time for the open forum. If anyone would like to address the council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda, may come to the podium, state your first, last name, and address, please. Hearing nothing from the chambers. Anybody on the phone bridge, please?
Nobody on the phone bridge, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, we have one presentation regarding bonding for $3.3 million will be presented by Taylor. She works with economic development. Thank you for being here, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good evening, everybody. For those of you here or listening online who don't know me, my name is Taylor Wyum. I'm a project coordinator for the city of Crookston. And I'm here today to talk to you about a project that you will be considering later on the regular agenda regarding the Crookston Industrial Park. We were recently awarded, the city, was recently awarded a $3.3 million grant to help pay for the building of infrastructure at the industrial park. So I believe everybody should have a copy of kind of what Keenan's going to be showing on the screen, as well as just more of an informational packet for the council. If you'd like to, I've numbered the pages. Flip to page 19. That'll show a map of the property we're talking about on the south end of Crookston. It's commonly referred to as the Golden property. But here you can see the north direction is actually on the right-hand side of the page. South is on the left. On the east side of the property, there is a railroad spur that is currently under construction. That'll be owned by Minnesota Northern Railroad. You might recall donating that 10 acres of land to the railroad earlier this year so that they could pursue that project. Along with that rail spur, we've got a separate project to build infrastructure at the industrial park. So you can see sort of a dark L shape on the map. That is where the proposed road, water, sewer, curb, gutter, etc. infrastructure would go through this project if the council decides to move forward tonight. You've also got two blue and purple squares on the map. Those would be water retention ponds for things like stormwater, wastewater, etc. So I just wanted to start there to give kind of a brief overview of what the project is. As I mentioned, the city was awarded $3.3 million from the U.S. Economic Development Administration. This grant was written by Carrie Kirschbaum, the Community Development Director, and Sean Raynham, who's also here tonight from the Northwest Regional Development Commission. We were just notified of this award. The total project cost for this project is $7.1 million. So the $3.3 million award leaves a gap of $3.8 million that the city will be asked to pay for should this project move forward. So what I'd like to really focus on today is what are the options to pay for this project. Through meetings with Todd Hagan from Ellers Financial, who is part of the organization who is currently creating the city's municipal finance plan. We've spoke with him and his recommendation is something called a temporary bond. This is a 3-year term bond, which is basically just a loan. They use the term bond due to state statute and rules that the state has, but it's essentially a loan. It's got a 3-year term and it has the option to be extended for one additional 3-year term. So you could have a maximum of 6 years with this temporary bond. The function of temporary bonds is that they're used to fund project costs while you're waiting for grants to reimburse, or in this case, as lots at the industrial park are sold, or if your project has another income source, you could use a temporary bond to cover the costs until you are cash flowing, essentially. Temporary bond payments are interest-only payments, and in this scenario, if we were to bond in 2026, the first payment would be due in 2027, and that would be at the second half of 2027. Our goal with this project would be that we would have businesses beginning to be developed in the industrial park by the time that first payment is due. As businesses develop in the industrial park, we will assess those businesses for the infrastructure adjacent to their lot, or, you know, if they have 10 acres, 10% of the wastewater ponds, et cetera. And we'll assess those businesses, and those assessment payments will help the city pay back the bond. These new businesses will also pay property taxes, and those tax payments can also be used to help pay back the bond. I've got a little note here that formerly the Ag Innovation Campus, it's now owned by Farmers Union Enterprises. In 2025, their property taxes due are $61,544.05. So if we got a couple, 1, 2, 3 decent sized businesses by 2027, we'd be looking at being able to cover the bond payment just with those businesses' property taxes. We've been working with our marketing coordinator, Keenan DeVere, to market the industrial park. We've partnered with a firm called Site Location Partnerships, who are currently helping us to market by visiting trade shows, representing us there, and working to set up meetings with individual clients who might be interested in the industrial park. And so on page 4, there is kind of a list of the marketing that's been done to date and how we'll continue to do that. So at the end of the 3-year term for the temporary bond, or 6 years if we do the one-time extension, you can roll any payment that is left on that bond into a long-term 20-year bond or a permanent bond. It's 20 years. So in the following pages, I've kind of outlined for you a couple of scenarios. One scenario, which I'm kind of referring to as the worst case scenario, is that the city would bond for $3.8 million. This would be a temporary bond, so interest-only payments for that 3 or 6 year period. And this would be the amount needed to fund the project if no additional grant funding is awarded to the project. The first payment would be due in the second half of 2027 in the amount of $54,363.75. In a better case scenario, we would be awarded additional grant funding from the state. If the council moves to accept the grant award tonight, we will apply for a business development public infrastructure grant from the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. That program can cover up to 50% of the project costs. To keep our estimates conservative here, we've got the numbers for a $2.5 million temporary bond, and that would be if the state funds covered 33% of that $3.8 million total. So the first payment on this lower amount, the $2.5 million temporary bond, would be $36,551.25 per year. You'll see on the following page, page 2, I've also outlined some of the tax impacts, and I want to just note that these tax impacts are estimated for the 20-year bond. So within the 3 or 6 year period when the temporary bond is running, if no businesses come to the industrial park within the 3 to 6 year period, we would be rolling this temporary bond into a permanent bond for 20 years, and these tax impacts would be relevant. With the larger $3.8 million temporary bond, the estimated tax rate increase across all of the taxpayers in Crookston would be 6.482%. And so I've pulled out some examples there of what that would be for different residential or commercial properties. This is again kind of the worst case scenario. No businesses develop, not a single business development happens anywhere in Crookston. There's no additional people moving to Crookston or building any homes. This would be the tax impact in 3 to 6 years. Another option is the use of an interfund loan to be part of the financing to lessen the tax impact. And it could also help sell lots at the industrial park faster if we kind of provided a little bit of an incentive to businesses at the industrial park. So there are options to reduce these tax impacts should it come to this. But we're fairly confident that we'll be able to bring some new businesses into the industrial park within that 3 to 6 year temporary bond period. The last thing I want to kind of mention is the investment to date at the Colburn property, the industrial park. Currently, to date, if we don't consider this grant that we're asking you to accept tonight, the total investment, both state and federal, is $15.1 million at the industrial park. This does not include any of the private investment that's gone on at the industrial park from our existing business owners in the area. If we accept the grant tonight, we'd be looking at a total federal and state investment in the park of $18,495 million. I've also included, again, the marketing piece and then the bond runs prepared by Ellers in the rest of the packet.
Taylor,
Yes.
just to clarify, it was 18 million?
Yeah, 18 million.
For the total investment so far, yes, 18.495.
Thank you.
15 million?
Oh, could you scroll down a little bit?
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
My bad.
Are there any questions this far?
Have we had any businesses show any type of commitment to come if we were to go, or to do this?
We do not have written commitments, but we do have significant interest.
I can answer.
Any good? We don't have
There
to-
actually was 2 letters of intent that came with the grant application.
Excuse me, there are 2 letters of intent from businesses that were submitted as part of the application process to the federal government.
I just wanted to clarify something. Thank you for all this information. It's very helpful in actually analyzing and coming to conclusion on how to vote on something like this. But you pointed out, like in a worst case scenario, that if you take, and you gave us a table, and then, for example, estimated market value of a $200,000 house, which you actually highlighted, and then gave a current tax bill of like $1,644, and then if it was a long-term bond, if I understood this correctly, then the added amount to that would be about $74, a little bit more than I think is what you're saying. So it was a nice example. Am I correct in saying that?
Which page are you looking at
I
here?
think my page is different. It's page 18 on my very, 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 very long document.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's.
So I think we're looking at page 15 on this presentation, Keenan. So yes, the tax increase proposed for a $200,000 residential homestead property would be $74.72 for the year.
Yeah, thank you for confirming that. So that's kind of the worst case scenario.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
Nothing goes in.
Nothing goes
If
in.
nothing goes in.
And then the other worst case scenario is possibly if you refuse the grant. And is there a penalty on that if you refuse a grant?
So, there isn't necessarily a penalty, they don't, really do anything to us, but we have been, informed by our regional representative from the US Economic Development Administration that it would be very unlikely that we would be funded for this project or a similar project in the future if we do not accept the grant.
I always think it's helpful to look at the worst case scenarios and then everything else in between is really good, right? Because you hope that people come, you build the industry and so on. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So you said a $200,000 house, 74,000?
$74.72, yes.
So what about page 2 where you say in there, $200,000 house would be about $111 per year?
Yes, so I want to clarify that we're looking at tax impacts for 2 different amounts of temporary bond. The bond that Joseph was just asking the question on, he's looking at the $2.5 million temporary bond. So that's the case where we get additional funding from the state or a private investor or something of that sort. That would be the $74 increase. On page 2, that $111 is if we bond for $3.8 million. That's the bond amount we would need assuming we don't have any additional funding help. One thing, before I came to council today, I did call the Polk County tax assessor as well, just to try to get an idea of what's the tax rate on a commercial property versus a residential property in town. And they were kind enough to give me a scenario where a $300,000 residential homestead property would pay $2,680 in city taxes each year for 2025. A $300,000 business would pay $5,203 in city taxes for the year 2025. So if you kind of look at those numbers, a commercial business pays $1.94 for every $1 of residential tax that's brought into the city. So by bringing in new businesses to Crookston, we're alleviating some of that tax burden on our residents, because commercial does bring in just a little bit more tax value.
Taylor, I have a question. When you talked to the assessor's office, did they say normally how long it takes for them to get it on the tax rolls when a property is starting to build?
I did not ask that question. So,
How long did it take to build what's currently out there? What was
the Ag Innovation Campus.
Just took one, summer.
1 year? This was before, I was not living in
No, I'm just
Crookston,
wondering
so I'm
like
not
when they were
sure.
like, we're gonna start to like get active.
It happened all in one summer.
Can't hear.
She said it happened all in one summer, the Ag Innovation Campus was built.
The road, once they started the road, it was completed in 1 year.
The road was 1 year?
No, but like when they said like, we're gonna do this, like we would like to build something to it being completed, cause people could say they're gonna start something and it's 3 years before it's completed.
Well, I don't know exactly the answer to that, but if we look at the investment to date at the property, there was a state allocation to build the Ag Innovation Campus Road in 2021. That road was built in 2023 and that allocation was closed out in 2024, so the paperwork was completed. So I would say that the total project from when they maybe started construction to completed was 3 years. But that was before my time, so I would be hesitant to.
You said you had two letters of intent. What businesses are they?
I don't believe I can share that information.
How many industrial lots have been sold in the city of Crookston in the last 7 years?
I don't know. I can find out.
How many?
I said I don't know, but I can find out.
Does anyone know?
The industrial park, I don't believe any because it hasn't been developed other than Ag Innovation Campus.
What's happening with that business?
The Ag Innovation Campus?
Yeah, the one that shut down.
It's been purchased by Farmers Union Enterprises, and they are planning to put in an organic pelletized fertilizer operation.
And their board just approved 3.5 million.
And they did just approve a $3.5 million investment into the facility.
Not to get overly involved, but when you talk about worst case scenarios, just amid the current political climate, and you hear about, the federal administration pulling back, varieties of grant dollars, is there any exposure or risk of occurring if you went forward with a $3.8 million bond and then didn't get those matching funds to combine with it? Would you be kind of pushed into a situation where you'd have to fund the entire 7.2 on the city's behalf entirely, or?
Yeah, so that's a good question. This grant was applied for before the administration changed, and so we've already kind of gone through the process of vetting this funding and determining whether or not they wanted to keep this funding available. So we just learned in September that they're going to give this funding away to applicants, so we're pretty confident that we won't be dealing with a fallback situation.
Sure.
What kind of
Would we be able to have people come up?
efforts does the city make to incentivize businesses to take a look at a project like this? I noticed your various forums and seminars that you've been to advertising Crookston. What kind of things are they projecting, holding out to people that might be interested in Crookston? Why should they come here?
So we've got a number of marketing materials that were created, both by the engineers who worked on this project, an architect who's familiar with the project, and then also SLP, the marketing firm that we've contracted with, has also created materials. So it talks about, what kind of infrastructure is available at the industrial park. One of the big selling points is the installation of that railroad spur that's going to drastically reduce the shipping cost and shipping time that people looking to ship large quantities of product are currently dealing with. So there's a number of materials that are developed, and if you're interested, we'd be happy to share them with you.
Sure. And has there been any questions of the committee that's been looking at these projects from potential or prospective businesses of the power capability of the city?
Electric service?
Yeah.
So we've been in conversations with Otter Tail Power, and they're very willing to work with whatever company would locate there to make sure their service is adequate.
So has there been any issue with regard to capacity from the businesses that might be interested?
We haven't had that problem.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. It's getting to be a big concern in other parts, so I'm just curious.
Yep, no, we haven't run into that yet, but Otter Tail did confirm to us that they were willing to work with whatever business needs would arise.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Taylor from the council? Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Good job.
Okay, moving on. This brings us to the agenda. Does anyone wish to add anything to tonight's agenda?
Your Honor, if we could update item 8.03, the resolution accepting a grant for the Crookston Industrial Park and Innovation Center Infrastructure Expansion Project, amending the City of Crookston's authorized officials from the mayor and city administrator to Carrie Kirschbaum. I've updated the online council packet to reflect this amendment.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Thank you, Henry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joseph. Thank you. Discussion. Do we need clarification?
This item will be talked at the regular agenda item, and questions can be asked at that time.
Okay, great, thank you. Roll call, please.
Briggs.
Aye.
Cavalier.
Aye.
Brecken.
Aye.
Lot.
Aye.
Alt.
Aye.
Hima.
Aye.
Shastel.
Aye.
Fisher.
Okay, motion carries. This brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda? Got a motion by Don, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Second by Clayton. Roll call, please.
Briggs.
Aye.
Cavalier.
Aye.
Brecken.
Aye.
Lot.
Aye.
Alt.
Aye.
Hima.
Aye.
Shastel. Fisher.
Okay, motion carries. All right, we have one for a public hearing tonight. Ashley, please.
Your Honor, item 7.01 is a public hearing regarding the ordinance amending the City of Crookston zoning ordinance, chapter 152.65.e and chapter 152.65.e by allowing slaughterhouses in the heavy industrial zone I-1.
All right, thank you. Okay, to ensure everyone has a fair opportunity to speak, each person will have an opportunity for up to 3 minutes to provide comment. When you come forward, please state your first, last name, and address, please. For record, all remarks should be directed to the council and must be related to the subject of this hearing. Please respectful of others, no interruptions or personal attacks will be permitted. When your time is up, Ashley, our city clerk, kindly asks you to finish your sentence so we can move on to the next speaker. Just a reminder too that you come up to speak 3 minutes, it's one time only. You cannot come up multiple times and speak. So whatever comments you have regarding this project, please have it all in your statement.
We might need 4 minutes.
So that's set for 3. Okay, I will open this public hearing. Does anyone wish to address council?
Before my time starts, I guess I was under the impression that it was a 5-minute limit. So if I were to err above that, I do apologize on that last sentence, so putting me on the clock. Good evening, council members. My name is Charles Eichhoff, and I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of Eichhoff Columbaria. a proud and long-standing manufacturer here in the city of Crookston, and we strongly oppose the text amendment that would allow slaughterhouses and animal processing facilities in the I-1 industrial district. Now, it's important to note that state law does provide the authority to cities to amend the text to their zoning ordinances. However, that authority is not unlimited. In fact, city code clearly states that any amendment must reflect the changes in goals and policies of the community as reflected or outlined in its comprehensive plan. And crucially, that such amendments must not be granted indiscriminately, meaning randomly. Now, this proposal is just that. It is indiscriminate. It does not stem from a documented change in the policy or goals of the community, but is rather a reactive measure that benefits one landowner, B&E Meats, who has already begun construction on a facility which is currently prohibited under existing zoning. Now, this undermines the integrity of our zoning processes, and it also sets a dangerous precedent moving forward. Slaughterhouses are one of the most noxious land uses imaginable. In fact, many of the modern zoning and regulations that we have concerning land use today in this country, in this state, in this community, are a result of the nuisances that slaughterhouses have historically posed on communities. These include excessive odors, noise, and environmental pollutants, all of which adversely affect neighboring properties, including our facility across the street, nearby residential areas, total lawn care, new flyer, even a daycare. And these impacts, they're not theoretical, they're well documented, and they're inconsistent and incompatible with the existing neighborhood. That said, it is my opinion that there's been somewhat of a dismantling of procedural integrity to date through this ordeal, and I feel badly because I think it prohibits you council members from making a frank discernment regarding this proposal. With that in mind, it's my opinion that there's plenty of appetite to move forward with this. That being the case, I urge you not to grant these uses as permitted, but rather conditional. This would allow the city to employ regulatory-based performance standards that would protect neighboring landowners and public health. These would include odor control, source controls, sanitation standards, waste management, noise restrictions, complaint response, and city inspections. These conditions, they're not excessive, but they're essential, and they reflect the city's responsibility under Minnesota law to appropriately regulate land use in a way that promotes public safety, health, and well-being. Just imagine a situation where someone begins a major construction project, a building that at the time is in violation of setback requirements, whose use is a prohibited one, a construction process that began without a building permit, a construction process that defied a stop work order on behalf of the city multiple times, and how that might not be a nefarious act. And so with that, the city must, if you do insist to move forward, we strongly oppose it, but if you do, move forward with caution, transparency, and enforceable safeguards, not indiscriminately. I think there's a final action vote on this matter on Wednesday night. That is not sufficient time to give thoughtful consideration to this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
I believe we asked for the address for the,
Oh, pardon me.
for people that come up.
I'm located at 1200 Bruce Street, Crookston, Minnesota, 56716.
And that's where you live?
I have an address at 17923 Eichhoff Road, Southeast, Erskine, Minnesota, 56525.
Okay, so did anybody challenge the variance that you guys had at 1200 Bruce Street?
I'm not familiar that that's part of the agenda tonight.
Well, no, I'm
There was
just
a
asking, you were saying you're from 1200 Bruce Street.
That's where our business is located.
You don't live there?
No, this matter affects our place of business, which is 1200 Bruce Street, and that's why I'm
But
addressing the council.
there wasn't a variance given to 1200 Bruce Street ever?
I'm confused.
There's not a habitational unit where you live at 1200 Bruce Street?
Again, I'm confused by the question. I'm not familiar with this as being a part of the public hearing.
Well,
I'm here to address questions about the proposed text amendment. that
Well, I mean, I was just, like, I read your,
Gotta keep it with public hearing.
okay, I mean, I was just wondering if,
I think my 3 minutes are up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, gotta keep it with a public hearing, please. Anyone else?
Matt Parno, 219 Ingersoll Avenue. Sorry, I really don't like public speaking. Am I able to ask Brett some questions?
It's statements directed to the council.
Statements.
We'll just keep it short then. My understanding is this is bringing 15 jobs to Crookston. Town is dying, in my opinion. Good job. Keep them coming. As far as the regulations, my understanding is there's state and federal county regulations that he has to abide by. There are FDA inspectors present at all hours of slaughtering. How could you get away with that? As far as odor, my house, I smell E-Plant, Synopta, Shanny, D, Superior Refinery, that one, the City of Lagoons, the transfer station. Smells like money to me. Someone's gotta make it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening, my name is Robin Benson. I'm actually a resident of Grand Forks, North Dakota, but we do own RBB Electric under our Soloway Properties Corporation here in Crookston. Do you want my home address in Grand Forks? Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of things that have been talked back and forth, and I just, I sat down and I thought I'm gonna make a bunch of notes as I was driving, or actually, as my husband was driving here, I was writing. I mean, I think that there's no question that this is gonna add a tax base to the business community in Crookston, and I think I look at the first item that was really up for discussion, that was tax base. I support the extra jobs for the community. It adds to the additional agriculture. I wanted to address too that this is a USD licensed facility, so the treatment of animals, the cleanliness, the disposal of waste, the smell, all these things are gonna be overseen by the USDA, and I don't believe that they take their job lightly. I do agree that there are facilities that do have those issues, but they run on a much larger basis, so you are comparing apples and oranges, in my opinion. The other thing is that I thought about that Brent is our neighbor. I don't even know how many years that we've been there, but smell was never an issue. And if it was an issue, it's because we walked inside and we wanted to purchase something the minute we smelled it. So I think that if there was gonna be a smell coming from this, it would hurt what is already considered their bread and butter. No business owner is going to risk that. And as people have addressed, their smell is coming from other areas. It's part of our community, and it's one of those things that we all joke, that it's the smell of money. That's just part of agriculture. The other thing is the cross-pollination of business. How does this affect RBB? Well, Farmer Joe comes to town. He brings his 5 animals that he wants processed and packaged. While he's here, he might stop at Walmart, he might stop at a local restaurant, he might get gas, and as he's doing all those things, all those businesses are seeing an increased sale, and they say, you know what, we might have to hire RBB to come and do some work for us. So I'm always for the cross-pollination of businesses. The other thing is I look at that Brent's been a great neighbor. We do things together to help each other out. Brent stores some things in our building from time to time. He helps us with snow removal. So I guess I have no complaints about him as a neighbor. So I would think that generally he's good to this community. The daycare's been brought up. Industrial park is not an intended use for a daycare facility. I have no opposition to that daycare, but they chose to be there. They also chose to know where they're going to be and the types of things that they're going to have to account for.
Please finish up.
Your time is.
My time is up. Thank you.
Robin, before you stop, to be consistent, would you please give me your address so that because we stated
Grand Forks, 5430. Raboyne, and I'll spell it for you, RABOIN, in Grand Forks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm also not good at public speaking, so bear with me. My name is Jennifer Aylen. I live at 332 Crescent Avenue, Crookston, Minnesota. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. One being that this is, like Robin just shared, this is gonna be a USDA certified facility that will be under scrutiny nonstop. There will be a person licensed there at all times to make sure that everything is done humanely and properly. I also wanted to address, and this is open to interpretation, but Article 152.65B, permitted uses. One of them is actually meat packing. If you look up the definition of meat packing does include the slaughter and as a key component of the use of the process of meat packing. So that in some eyes, that could be interpreted as an approved use of this facility. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close this public hearing.
If we, if council members have further questions, will that be at the next meeting or?
Yes, and I guess we do have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday. I would like to push it off to the next council meeting, so we got time to kind of absorb and think this, what we're gonna do out there over. Thoughts?
Your Honor, I've already canceled that meeting for further preparation for council.
Thank you.
Wednesday? Correct.
So this will be in 2 weeks on the next council meeting for discussion.
That's probably good to give us more time to think into that extra week.
So that will be a regular council meeting. That will be November 3rd for the public.
And then if we just have follow-up questions on that for rent or other things, that will be the time for us to ask them.
I think so.
Yeah, that's a better thing.
Okay. All right, moving on, this brings us to the regular agenda. Ashley, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Item 8.01 is a resolution approving the memorandum of agreement, the MOA, for the proposed of applying for a 2025 Minnesota DNR Community Tree Planting Grant.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Your Honor.
Thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joseph. Discussion. Scott, you got anything to add to this, please?
I'll just comment while he's on his way up here. If you need to read the resolution, this would allow respective partners listed in the memorandum of agreement to apply jointly for any future tree planting grants. This will basically allow us to replace a tree for every tree that we have to cut down for disease or something else in the future, but I'll also let Scott comment if he's got any further.
This grant is in conjunction with the West Polk County Soil and Conservation, UMC, and I can't even remember all the different things, but we are looking at to get a grant because we have the ash trees in town are looking at the possibility of the ash tree borer. And we've been looking down in the woods edition to start with. There are trees that are starting to look infected. We are needing to remove them. We're also looking at the spraying in I call it the vaccination of them. But this grant, which is we're going after $100,000, which would help us to remove and to plant the new ones, so that there would be hopefully no cost to the city as we start with starting with 100 down in the woods edition and moving on.
So when do you find out if the grant's accepted?
Well, we need this memorandum so that we have to have it submitted by the 27th. And then we will know within, Joseph, do you remember what day they said?
No, but it's a very quick turnaround.
It's a real quick turnaround,
Okay.
I mean, like by the spring.
And again, the premise is that there are 1 billion ash trees at risk across Minnesota. So this is emerald ash borer, a big problem, not just here, but in other states coming from other continents. So I'm sorry, Scott, so I think the premise of what you're saying is that this is a mechanism to try to slow that spread. And this is one of the methods to do that,
Yes.
by targeting trees that we think are most susceptible to this disease.
Is there any, do we have to match any type of funding?
No, there is no matching. It's 100% grant, there is no matching. What we're trying to do is get ahead.
So basically, if you're awarded the grant, you would start next summer.
Yes,
Okay,
And then Parks and Rec would be heading this project?
yes, yes. And one of the things that one of the reasons that we're going after the grant is because of the situation where, you know, due to manpower, we would be looking at hiring out some of the companies to take down the trees and remove the stumps, and then we can come in and get them planted.
okay, thank you. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Briggs, Cavalier,
Aye.
Bracken,
Aye.
Lot,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Pivma,
Aye.
Shostel,
Aye.
Fisher.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.02 is a resolution authorizing information technology contracts with Xigent for virtualization platform and server upgrades, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Thank you, Henry. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by
Clayton.
Clayton. Discussion. Darren, you got?
Yeah, so this contract for consideration is actually budgeted as a 2026 CIP expenditure. So this payment of this contract would actually occur in January of 2026. Reason for this in front of council now is there's several services that we currently subscribe to that we need to get us to the end of the year. However, this contract would replace those short-term contracts. And by entering into this agreement, we'd not have to renew those temporary services and would ultimately be a cost savings for the city. This is the direction IT was planning to go, if you remember from the budget presentation that Joel presented. Him and I were discussing this, and just by entering this contract early, like I said, they'll allow us to pay in January. It provides the services that we need with a cost savings in 2025.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
Just give me a sec to just run something. So does that contract include, maybe this has nothing to do with that, Darren, so you can correct me here, but if our information is accessed, is there some kind of insurance policy with these contracts that a way to prevent security breaches? Does that have anything to do with this?
I will let Joel speak on that. I told him be ready for any of the IT questions that I can't answer. I know what the contract's for, but I apologize. I will let him defer to that.
Straightforward.
So your question was that, do we have any,
Do security protocol safety, does that relate to this, and if so, how?
so this is, during the, and I don't think you were here yet, during my presentation of budget, it has to do with virtualization. So we have physical servers, and then we have a software that virtualizes. So we can have three physical servers, we have 20 virtual servers. So we use the compute and the hardware to spin up virtual servers. We have quite a few of them, run various things throughout the city. This stems from VMware being purchased by Broadcom several years ago. And their pricing structure has radically changed. It's been very volatile. We've seen a 3x increase. We could see as high as a 10x increase. And we come up for renewal in March. The current platform that we were at before is no longer available, which immediately moved us up to a 3x increase. There is a chance that we could see a 10x increase in March. So part of the reason is some of the volatility behind this. It used to be, I think VMware represented something like 45% of the market at virtualization. So it's been a pretty big
shakeup, I guess you could say, when Broadcom took them over. So what we're presenting here is to move away from VMware for virtualization and use Verge.io. The licensing agreement is a little bit less. It does require new physical hardware. To retrofit our current hardware was very close in cost to what we would get new hardware with. And that's why we presented that as the best option, basically. But as far as like any security, it has basically nothing to do with the security, I guess.
That was an easy one.
The long answer on that.
I was waiting.
Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Briggs.
Aye.
Cavalier.
Aye.
Reckon.
Aye.
Clot.
Aye.
Alt.
Aye.
Hima.
Aye.
Shostel.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.03 is a resolution accepting a grant for the Crookston Industrial Park and Innovation Center Infrastructure Expansion Project, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
moved.
Thank you, Joseph. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Henry. Discussion.
So this is the gravel we just heard the presentation of.
Yes.
So my concern is this, we all know the state of our city and what we're up against financially, and, you know, we're struggling with getting local grants to businesses who operate here, like the trans bus and the transit bus and the Golden Link. So I worry about, you know, what this looks like. We're still not doing anything to the point of trying to replenish our reserves. Or we're still just moving forward with just minimum CIP projects. And if the worst case, so what are we looking at now before this discussion on a $200,000 household for the taxes? You have those figures?
Are you talking on our current budget, or are you talking about for the grant?
The 2026 budget.
I can get them for you real quick.
Well, whatever that number is, I can't remember what that number is, but let's pretend nothing gets built and then it's like on a $200,000 house and it's $74, or if we did the $3 million option, it's $111. That's on top of what we're already at with the city for taxes. And, you know, I fully support this project down in the industrial park. The problem is how are we gonna pay it? We're already strapped with, you know, I think a lot of city residents and business owners, you know, the taxes are getting almost unbearable. So that's the concern that I have with this. I mean, we have to add those two numbers together and look at a worst case scenario of what our residents could be paying on, I mean, I just say a $200,000 house, but whatever your house may be on. And then on top of that, what is the business taxes for the business owners? And, you know, us council folks here are pro-business, and we can't get businesses without some expenses into our community, but right now it's a struggle.
I have those numbers if you would refresh your question for me.
So what on a $200,000 house in 2026 at the proposed levy that we settled on, granted, we haven't had a chance to bring it down yet, what would that number be on a $200,000 house?
So on an 8%, the projection I did was on a $250,000 house.
Okay,
That was approximately $70 a year.
so $70 a year, and a worst case scenario on a $3 million bond would, you know, and I'm not sure how many years ahead, but we're looking about $111 or $74 on top of that per year. You know, and now, that being said, are we gonna somehow find a way to lower taxes for 2027? I'm not seeing it yet. Are we gonna somehow lower our taxes in Crookston for 2028? Not seeing it yet. Not seeing a path of how we can lower our taxes and start, you know, moving forward to get our financial situation under control. So, I mean, does anybody else have any comments on that situation?
I kind of feel the same way, Delane, as I know that the $18 million that has been invested so far, that hasn't come from Crookston. That's still a lot of money. That's $18 million invested in the industrial park for one failed business. I know that didn't come out of our residents' pockets, but that's a lot of money to get a whole out of nothing. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but on the opposite hand, we can't give business in here unless we invest somehow. So I'm seeing that side of the token.
But if there's no intent, if there's nobody lining up at the door, like, we wanna come to Crookston,
Right.
it's a lot of money invested to, well, I hope somebody comes.
Well, I mean, we can't wait for people to line up to come to Crookston when we don't have anything. We gotta put something here for them to come and line up for.
And Henry, and I agree with you, but I mean, we're gonna have a truth and taxation meeting here, and I'm not sure how that's gonna go. But a couple of years ago, it's pretty ugly, and I think we're higher than that right now, coming into this 2026 season, so I mean, it's, I mean.
You know, people have run businesses, it's always risky. And you plan ahead and you set your goals. And sometimes things fail. But I think where we as Crookstonites, we do need a vision of growth. And sometimes it's hard to move forward thinking that there is the potential in worst case scenario, which was nicely explained to articulate that, because again, I like to think about what's the best case, what's the worst case scenario, and you prepare for both. But I think one of the things that we're lacking here as a city is that clear vision of where we want to go. And this allows us an olive branch in that direction. Now, of course, it might not go perfectly. And you know, you have the 3-year bond, you're trying to attract people, industries, and it would be wonderful to hear more about how you attract good businesses here to develop. And I think that does take time. And it sounds like that it hasn't always gone well in the past, but maybe part of that is that we didn't have the right infrastructure to do that. And that's part of this, the bonding is to be able to provide the infrastructure that's needed to do that. So, you know, in some ways, it's back to that old Kevin Costner movie, build the field and they will come, right? You hope they come. And I think there should, I think, be a tight coordination, transparent communication with the process. Should we go this way and vote yes? You know, before we do that, with the understanding that there's constant communications as to, okay, who's potentially coming in without ruining them coming here, right? Because some things are private. And yet, to be informed that, oh my gosh, looks like someone's coming in. Oh, another one's coming in. And then once you get that, the few coming in, then you know, more and more come in. But it's true, it's an imperfect process. But I'm leery, me personally, I'm leery to say no, because I have such great hopes for Crookston. And I wanted to succeed, really. But I have to admit that it's not a guarantee. And the worst, what you're mentioning, Delane, is the worst case scenario, that individuals, you know, with these households have to pay more. And that's not good. But
So then the other thing is this one, and then down the road is gonna be something else where we're gonna have to bond for to help the businesses come in there to get established. It's like, it's an onion in some ways where, you know, now we have to approve another, you know, bond down the road that's gonna add to the tax burden to the community as well. So I mean, those are the unknowns and those are the risks. But so the question we all have to ask is, are we willing to risk that and already stress our residents to be paying more taxes than they already are with, and right now, we can't afford to build our own roads. In a lot of ways, we can't afford to do some of that stuff because we don't have the finances to do it. So a question could be asked is, boy, we're gonna spend a lot of money to develop this area, what about some of the roads within our own city that are in need?
But I mean, like, the thing is like, we're not gonna all of a sudden have the money to pay for these roads. We need to bring businesses in so they can pay for the roads. Like, that's like, we're not just gonna magically fall into this money, we're just gonna keep falling down if we don't.
I agree.
If we don't bring people in to bring in money.
But it's the pain in between that I'm not sure a lot of residents are willing to burden, is the question.
I have a question for Taylor. If, let's say, best case scenario, we fill all those lots in 10 years, how long would it take for those tax funds to offset that 7 million?
8 million.
If the
Or
question,
3.8 million?
if the question is how long would it take to pay off the 3.8 million, that depends on the business that comes in and the value of whatever they construct on the lot they purchase. If we do a temporary bond for 3.8 million and we have 4 businesses come in and buy large lots in the industrial park, they build right away, it's entirely possible within that 3 or 6 year temporary bond period, we've got most of that bond paid off. And it's really hard to do a payback period when you don't know how quickly businesses will come in. So we do have 2 businesses who provide letters of commitment for the application. They are still interested. So I can't give a timeline of we'll have, 30% of the bond paid off in 2 years because that would be made up. So I guess I can't give you a timeline, but there is a world in which if we really market the industrial park, we get businesses to come in, we pay off these bonds without having to go to a 20-year bond.
And that's the hope, I guess. Yeah. First of all, we've got, if it's not shovel ready out there, we're not gonna attract anybody. And the other thing is that what Derek's comment about, we already had one failed business out there with no money that was involved with taxpayers. I get it's a risk we take. But we also had another business that moved into the Ag Innovation campuses and committed 3-point-some million, and they're gonna pelletize for fertilizer or whatever they do. So, we still got a business out there. And I think that'll attract other business. I think the railroad spur will help, which is a done deal. We're not paying for anything with the rail spur. But, the Colborne property, we should have been doing something out there 10 years ago and we never did. And if we don't do it now, try to apply for state and federal money down the road, I think would be more difficult because we're already denying it. And infrastructure cost never goes down. So, it's a tough situation, it's a lot of money, but I just feel at times, we gotta take a risk and hopefully we can attract businesses out there, which attracts employees, which attracts people building or moving into our community. That raises the tax base.
And if we don't, we're stuck with these payments for a long time.
Excuse me, Dan, can Sean speak from?
Please come up to the podium.
I just wanted to bring up.
We get your name, please?
Sean Random, Northwest Regional Development Commission, so I was one of the couple people who helped write this thing. 2 points of clarification. One is that $100 and whatever, how many dollars that we're worried about on a $200,000 house, that can actually be delayed for 6 years, because we're running a temporary bond. So that bond payment is much smaller. That's once you hit the 20-year. So it's not an immediate next year tax increase. The second.
Sorry, what would it be in between now and 6 years?
What was the bond, the interest payment versus the 20-year bond payment? I don't have the number off the top of my head.
The interest payment, that would be due in August 2027 on the $3.8 million bond is $54,363.75. So divide that by the number of
That's
properties.
about a point and a half on our levy rate, roughly.
This year, 1 point is 48,000.
Yeah, so just a
Yep.
like 1.2.
So the short-term impact is, I guess, less. The second thing is that rail spur that's going in, this provides the public access to that rail spur. So if there is nothing that goes into the industrial park, people can still haul their commodities to that rail spur. So that's another economic driver that I just want you to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is, just to clarify, is there any other, do we have any other, money that we're gonna, that we know of, any other projects that are on the books that are gonna affect our, the taxes?
So if you recall from some of the budget discussions, we are considering, which will be, further this year, some road projects. The the first one that we were looking at was 1.7 million. That would also be a bond that we would have to do for that. Would be kind of follow the same suit. We'd apply for 26 payments due in 27.
And then on that one, what is, do you have the impact on a $200,000 house in that situation?
I do not, because we haven't approved that or
Right,
anything.
but I mean, so what I'm getting at is there's that and there's this and then our taxes. It could add up fast. And then all of a sudden somebody gets their tax statement in 2027 and that's a huge number. So-
Darren, assessment for roads though, it's like, the way it's set now, it's 30% of the entire project, correct?
It is, so when we do assess for roads, there is some revenue streams for that,
So water pays a share,
Wastewater.
water and wastewater,
and then assess the homeowner.
right, so there's a share coming out of water and wastewater for it being assessed for the roads. For putting infrastructure in, is that correct, or am I reading that
Oh,
wrong?
you're correct. $1.7 million bond, again, first year would be interest-only payment after that, depending on the percentage rate that you have. I think what we're talking about, low threes, we're in the threes. I mean, you would be talking about a $200,000 payment likely in 2028, somewhere in that neighborhood. But again, of
Per year,
that payment,
yeah.
correct.
Until it's paid.
Correct, and it could be a 20-year general obligation bond, but again, remember, you can divvy it in thirds, homeowner, wastewater, water, so there are resources available through enterprise funds to pay for that bond payment. The total burden would not be on the taxpayer.
I guess where I'm at is, this one's a hard one for me, because if we knew this was coming down, I wish this had been in the budget talk, which I know you mentioned it at the end, but I think Carrie was presenting her budget, it would have been nice to be there. And I know we didn't know if we were gonna have it yet, but we had an idea that they were going to maybe get this. I think it's a catch-22 on this one. I mean, first off, Lily, you did a wonderful job. It was very great. I think that was the best that's been presented for us, so thank you. But it is hard, right? Like, I don't wanna stop businesses and industry coming in, but it is also very hard knowing financially where we are at and what we have coming down. I will say, I think if I vote yes on this one, I won't be voting yes on any other bonds for EDA type projects, because knowing that we have our infrastructure and what we need to fix there for bonds, I think we have to start being very
So
choosy.
if you vote yes for this one tonight, then would you vote yes on the infrastructure bond?
I'm saying that's different. I know that there's been conversations of bonding for the Casey's development, behind there, and I don't think I could choose.
I do just have a question for Gary.
Carrie, please.
Just the infrastructure, we did not get awarded that, so that won't be on the agenda coming up this year.
No, I was just wondering if like it was said, like two companies are waiting on it. Is anybody else waiting on it?
In the
Like, if we, cause I mean, like, everybody's out if we say no. So,
Everybody's
I
out,
mean,
correct.
is there anybody else that's just waiting for an approval, or if there's anything, like, no names or anything, it's just, if there's more than 2 that are ready to go?
There's 2 that are ready to move on it. The marketing firm has got a bunch of leads. We have calls coming up in December. I don't know anything for sure. They've had some warm leads. But until we talk with them and until we can, tell them exactly what we have out there, people are hesitant. And then we also get constant,
Can't hear a damn thing.
about every few months, we get calls from Deed on the Lowest, which is there's like, people who again are, nameless. They're looking for different businesses and they ask us, how much water do you have? How much power do you have, to your point? What is your infrastructure? What is your internet? So we do respond to those. So definitely the shovel ready has more. And I would say that our EDA board, Nick Nicholas was on there and some of the others, and they really decided to push forward and even put themselves on the line to say, let's get this put out here if we're gonna get our tax base included. So, and just briefly, that 18 million on the industrial park, that was 18 million wasn't on the failure of the AIC campus. That was, the investment has to do with North Star Lime, it has to do with the industrial park. So but it was about 18 million that it cost to build that, so you were correct on that number. So, thanks. Any other questions for me? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the other thing to consider, I just want to throw this out there, is water. I mean, when we had an issue with the epitome was going to build out there one time, it was a huge issue that we weren't going to be able to supply the water from the city at that time. So what if one of these future businesses are, they're going to go there, then let's just say they have a high need of water, which I don't even know how much extra we can produce as a city. I mean, it's considered for future businesses that are gonna go out there.
Well, weren't we about to be in that co-op for water? That we were,
Well, that's something we were gonna consider down the road,
well, yeah, like.
which I'm not sure if I was gonna be on board with or not, but besides that, if there was a concern for the epitome out there to not being able to supply them enough water, we must be getting toward the higher end of being able to supply water to some businesses, it seems like. So, I mean, I would hate to do all this development and then we can't supply, the infrastructure for water and different things like that. So it's just.
So you're, Jolene, so you're suggesting that we have a limited amount of water, right?
Well, there was a
You're just
concern at one
questioning
point in time, another business that out there, that they were asking for so much water that we were probably gonna be able to.
I think, I think it wasn't, I think the water issue to supplying epitome was okay, but we were wondering if it was gonna be wear and tear or less flow for other parts of the community. I think they were talking about possibly having another well. I don't think the issue, don't quote me on this, but I don't think the issue was supplying enough water.
Well, I remember it being that because they had, at the time, they had so many different numbers for the water that they needed. And one of the numbers was something that's so high we couldn't deliver it.
I
So
guess,
then it started another conversation, well, then they came back with some different numbers, which was on the edge. So I'm just, like I said, I don't know if that's even a concern here, but it was then.
So in the planned infrastructure in this grant, it's to provide water as one of, right? So could you speak a little bit to that, if you know at the top of your head? Regarding, it's not tapped into what the city currently uses, we're creating new wells.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think epitome, you're right on that, Delaney. I think they wanted, at some point, I heard the number $1 million. I was just talking with our engineers on that. That's not, what they are doing is a study to ascertain. I think that they did phase 1, has been done, a study on how much water we have.
Yeah, we are
There's
continuing
another-
to do field water studies. We are doing more
Yeah.
next year.
So we're in this study is gonna be able to
Of course.
find out what our max capacity would be and where we're currently at and.
You're just study for.
Okay.
How much water we need supply or.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So kind of carrying on with that though, so Sorry, Gary.
That's okay.
You're doing such a great job. So has that assessment been done?
One phase has been.
Hold on a second. So in terms of the average amount of water that we needed per business, it varies tremendously across the corporations, right? I mean, we have people representing business community in front of us, and they can tell you how much water they use. But was that assessment done in thinking about expansion and further development of infrastructure of the industrial park?
Just in general, the city they were looking at is, to Henry's point, there was they're proposing a water district on the west side of the state here. And they did phase one, but there's more phases to do, and we'll be having those conversations. And then to Dale's point, they were looking, do we need an additional well, because is everybody tapping into one aquifer? So our public works is ahead of that, and they've been on top of it, and they've been doing a really good job with the studies and to work with our engineers on it. So there's been no like red flags saying we don't have enough water. But those studies are being done, and then there's just different phases as we go.
It was 336,000 gallons of water a day for clean energy.
No business has asked for any water. I'll just put it like that.
Yes, I don't think this is like on the level of aquifer that we have pulling out of water from the same area. We're not in that area, and it's an overdrain, it's just a matter of quantity. Here I haven't heard that there was an issue with lack of water. But I think it's an important thing to address. If that is an issue, then it's something that you look at something even more intently, and scrutinize it further. I would love to hear more information about that if there's an issue. I think the council would vote very differently if that was an issue right away. I think it'd be a sort of a no-brainer. You say, well, I'm sorry, there's not enough water currently for our current needs. But I'm not hearing that.
For sure, and then if we have to do something different, like drill another well or put, that's gonna add to the tally, you know, it just.
Yeah, that doesn't solve the problem, right, adding just another well, if there's only so much water.
We're not gonna have this immediately right now, because the fact that we're working on it, the city's working on it, so it's not a done deal, and we have to look at all the pluses and minuses, and we're just kind of going back and forth here, and let's make some decisions.
I think flushing this out, no pun intended, so we're talking about water, I think teasing this apart is very helpful so that we can, part of the discussion though is things come up that you're not aware of, and by just conversing, something else comes up, and like, okay, I didn't think about that. So back to Darren though, and the other capital, the other improvements that might use bonds. I mean, the reason why you take out a bond is because you don't have enough money to cover it yourself. And then you're able to do things you couldn't do on your own, but then the penalty is that you have to pay interest on that. So besides road infrastructure, is there anything else that from our previous conversations in the budget meetings that we would have to consider before we would vote on something like this?
So for 2026, and again, you know, if you remember the AE2S, the CIP project study in reference to infrastructure improvements, streets, water, sewer, etc. This was one of those projects that was budgeted 1.7 million. Again, that could be altered, changed on guidance of council, anything along that lines. This was one project of that. However, remember, it is a very large CIP proposal they put together, upwards of $100 million. So yeah, if we were going to continue to do projects each year, there could be a strong possibility that additional bonds will be presented to council in the future. This is one, again, we haven't moved on it. We haven't done anything with it. It's not in a 2026 budget because the payment would interest be 27 with actual payment 28. But again, that could be changed. So after this time, on the city side budget, that is the only proposed bond at this time for 2026.
And so what would happen if we ended up voting yes on this and we decided we want to wait on the next bond for another 5 years out? What happens between now and then in terms of our infrastructure?
You know, we could go back to that study and we could revisit that at a future meeting for you so we could, you know, answer your questions intelligently. But, you know, a lot of these projects, if you remember, are past their service life already by an extended many years. You know, again, that's always a decision that can be made to push those projects, but Several of them are way past their service life, so I think at some point and start looking at replacing them, or we're reactive and trying to find funds when they're not available to replace things.
And this, I'm sorry, this is one of the areas of, we talk about, envisioning your future, is you have all these things up on a map and you say, okay, this, and this is my plan financially, this is what I plan, to meet the goals of the future. And we're doing a little bit now, but we still have a long way to go. So it could be that we vote on this current one, that for the bonding that Taylor had presented, that we vote yes on that, but then, and I'm speaking for myself, obviously I'm not speaking for everyone else here, but one thought is then we delay that, and in the meantime, if there's a 5-year delay, we figure out increased ways to draw in businesses so that actually that flourishes. If that doesn't happen, then we end up having a longer delay, so that's such that, getting back to Delane's point, that we're not getting the same household again saying, oh, I'm sorry, but there's this, and by the way, there's this as well, there's another one coming up. And I think that understanding is important, both from the people who are listening, everyone's paying their taxes, okay, we're not being hit immediately, nor at the same time for multiple bonds, and I think.
Granted, on one hand, I hear from a large portion of the community that, never doing enough to get new business here. Well, this would be something that we could be doing to get more business here. And on the same token, I have people saying our taxes are out of hand and they can't afford to live here. So that is also a concern, and so, like I say, I'm conflicted as well. Do we?
Well, I was gonna say, we also know we have the highway too. Little project that we're gonna have to bond for.
Yeah, are we gonna have to pay anything on Highway 2 project?
Yeah, we are working that out. It's a large amount. Working with EDA on, we have some grants that we've acquired. We're working on others. But the full scope of that project would likely be a bond for any additional funds that we can't receive grants for, yes.
So if we had to rank those out, what would come up with the number top, the first one of those three?
Highway corridor.
I guess I'm being optimistic, where you talk about attracting new businesses downtown. I think once our downtown corridors are redone, I think it's gonna be very attractive for our community. I think businesses will probably take a second look at our downtown.
You're more optimistic than I, but I hope too. But again, it's what we have to change.
But it goes hand in hand, if, our housing, housing market's another thing, we need. But if we have more housing, if we have more people living here, then you attract more businesses too.
Is it imperative that we pass this tonight? Can we do, when does it what's the deadline of getting it in?
It has to be tonight. Deadline is on the 22nd.
Why do these always come when the deadline is like the next day? Why can't we, because what I would like to do is have some time and put some pencil to paper to figure out worst case scenario for this bond, worst case scenario for the highway project bond coming through city, Crookston, worst case scenario for our street project, and when all the different bonds that we're gonna have to probably apply for, what is the worst case scenario for all the bond, or for all those bonds, and what does that look like for a house on a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and also businesses worth X amount, and because now we're starting to learn about all these different bonds. That's starting to be a huge.
We did discuss the bonds at budget meetings. I tried to paint the 10,000 foot view for you. You're right, there are some other projects that are coming up that would likely be bonded. In reference to this, we didn't last minute. By the time we received notice that we will receive the grant and put everything together, this is the first council meeting after receiving the grant. Unfortunately, it's a tight timeline. I apologize for that. I wish we could have given council more time, but we did not sit on this. We moved as fast as we could. So unfortunately, yes, tough decisions.
But maybe that's the way bonds happen. They come out.
Right, it was just short term and that's how we moved. Yeah.
Darren, did we ever get any information regarding our reserves? We had put that forward, and you were gonna find out and come back. Did we get a number on that?
You know, we're currently working on that. Again, I don't have that answer for you tonight. We've had ongoing meetings with CLA and Baker Tilly as far as our audit in 2024. We're having weekly meetings with that. It's difficult to come up with those reserve numbers as much as they are. We're working on that, but I hope to have an answer for you in the coming weeks. It's best I can tell you right now. Apologize again.
No, thanks for just.
It's not easy answers to come to. I know it's difficult to make decisions without those numbers, but we are working internally and with outside firms to get you a number.
Well, further discussion? Let's have roll call, please.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Bracken,
Nay.
Plot,
Nay.
Alt,
Nay.
Hima, no, it has to go in order, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Chastel,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
5-3, the resolution passes.
Thank you. Motion carries then. Moving on, one more, I think.
Yes, Your Honor. Item 8.04 is a resolution establishing procedures relating to compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Got a motion by Don. Is there a second? Second by Wendy. Discussion.
So, yeah, I guess just in sum here, the IRS's regulation when dealing with reimbursements from bond proceeds, the regulations require a city to make a declaration of intent to reimburse themselves for any future expenditures of a project that would be paid for by a bond. So in sum, this would put us in compliance with the IRS and allow us to pay ourselves back for any expenses that were paid prior to the issuance of a bond. So moving forward, if we did bond for projects, this would allow us to do just that.
Perfect. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Briggs,
Aye.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Bracken,
Aye.
Plot,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hima, Chastel,
Aye.
Fisher.
Okay, motion carries. Reports. Got anything, Darren?
No, you did have my report back to council. Just a reminder, we spoke about earlier, we did cancel a special meeting scheduled for October 22nd. Other than that, I'm open for any other questions if anybody has them.
All right, thank you. Clayton, anything?
Nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Henry?
Nothing for me.
Joseph?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Morgan?
Just as at the EDA meeting where we discussed many things on top of this. And the other one, I wanted to, thank the Parks and Rec Department. They have the sports center up and running. It's been cool to see a lot already there. And it's also, I would like to, mine is very little. But it's been really cool to see a lot of the older kids out there, helping the little ones or letting them play with the games. So just a shout out also to the parents. And then I forgot to.
Thank you, Morgan. Wendy?
Nothing specific for me, but thank you all for coming out today to show how you feel about the ED project.
Thank you. Elaine?
Yeah, it was a tough vote for me to vote against this tonight, but I just am looking out for, you know, the taxpayers in the city. I mean, I don't want this vote to label me as business growth within this community, but I just, we're just in a tough situation as a city, so that's why I voted no against this.
Thank you. Derek?
Sorry, Brent, that this is getting drug out the way that it is. There's been some failures on our side and hopefully be doing better.
Thank you. Don?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. I don't have much to add tonight. I just want to thank everybody for showing up. I know it's tough decision what council's gotta come up with in the next couple of weeks, but and also with the 3.3 million, that's a tough one to swallow too, but I think we will get through this, and hopefully we've got some business expansion out in the industrial park. So I'm being optimistic on that along with our downtown. So, just a reminder, there will be no Ways and Means meeting tonight. So nothing, council, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.